Hello everyone, Manato here, and in today's video we are going to be discussing the pull value of all the agents being ran in 2.3. We're going to be discussing the new agents, both S rank and A rank, and we're also going to be discussing the reruns. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the video. Let's start off by discussing the new agents, starting with Lucia. Lucia is an ether support agent, and Lucia's main focus is going to be on buffing rupture agents because she's able to increase the team's maximum HP as well as give a sheer force buff. Lucia's main value right now is in the fact that she's able to boost Yidhari specifically by a decent amount compared to other options like Astra or Caesar, so you may find a lot of extra value there, but it has to be noted that at least right now, currently, the only rupture agent in the game is Yidhari, though during the first phase of 2.3 we're going to be getting Manato, and in the second phase we're going to be getting Yidhari, which will then further boost her value for those characters. Overall, speaking right now, even with Manato and Yidhari being considered, Lucia is still not a super high value character, at least right now, because that's still just 3 characters. Instead, you could pick up someone like Astra, who's a really good buffer for anomaly, attack, and rupture, compared to Lucia, who's the best buffer, but just for rupture. Now, that doesn't mean that she's bad by any means and that you shouldn't pick her up, because like I just said, she's going to be the best buffer for rupture, meaning she's going to be the best buffer for Yidhari, she's going to be the best buffer for Manato, she's going to be the best buffer for Yidhari, and she's going to be the best buffer for any other future rupture agents that are released. So it may be in your best interest to pick her up if you're thinking of speccing into the rupture meta. But if you're not really super interested in the whole ignoring defense thing, then I'd recommend you just don't pull Yidhari. Oh, and also just like a little extra like a tidbit, not super important. If you really want to get Manato, I'd recommend just pulling until you also get Lucia, because Lucia will boost Manato's performance by a good amount. It's not like no one should go out of their way to pull an A rank, but just in case you're going out of your way to pull Manato, I'd highly recommend you pick up Lucia. Moving on to our next agent, we have Yidhari. Yidhari is an ice rupture agent and is the first ice DPS to be added to Zenless Zone 0. Okay. Jokes aside, Yidhari's main focus as a DPS is getting up close and personal with the enemies while also brawling with them and exchanging her own HP while also increasing her own HP, which effectively makes her immortal. The main reason you'd want to pick up Yidhari is if you were in need of a strong, consistent, and easy to use ice DPS, which in that sense, Yidhari fills that role really well. Her main issue is that she's not the only agent who fills that role really well. If you have other agents like Hugo, Ellen, or Miyabi, then Yidhari's pull value goes down by a decent amount. Now, this isn't to say that if you have any of these characters that you absolutely shouldn't pull Yidhari, but I'm simply saying that if you have any of these characters, then maybe you should think a little bit deeper about whether or not you really need to pull Yidhari. Now that we're finished talking about the S rank agents, let's discuss Manato. Manato is an A rank fire rupture on-field main DPS. Damn, it's a mouthful. Now obviously, being an A rank, she's not going to be able to deal as much damage as any of the limited S rank characters, but this doesn't make Manato completely useless. According to most testing, Manato is actually a really decent on-field DPS. Now with that being said, should you pull Manato for any other reason besides you loving the character? Nope. Now I'm not saying that Manato is necessarily a bad agent, what I am saying is that Manato is not a super high value agent. This is mostly due to the fact that Manato primarily functions as a DPS, and as a DPS he just doesn't deal that much damage, at least not enough damage to warrant you spending your premium currency to get him and his M6, if you don't like him as a character. Though it also has to be mentioned that he will be running alongside Lucia, so you could try going for the both of them and probably snagging his best support to further boost his performance. The most easy to understand way that I could honestly explain this is that in a world where Ben is bad, Billy is okay, and Ellen is great, Manato is good. Do with that what you will. Moving on to our reruns for 2.3, we have Vivian and JuFufu. Let's start with Vivian. Vivian is an ether anomaly agent who plays as a sub DPS who aids in dealing damage using her ablooms. If you're a player who is really invested into the anomaly playstyle with a good amount of anomaly characters, then Vivian is an absolutely incredible pickup. She pairs amazingly with almost every single anomaly agent in the game and shows significant performance increases when compared to playing with other partners for most of its characters. Vivian's main issue is that she doesn't really provide much support for attack agents or even rupture agents, so yes, the value she provides is not universal, which does reduce her overall pull value. So what this basically means is that if you're invested into the anomaly playstyle and you have a good amount of anomaly characters, then Vivian is a really high value pickup. Otherwise, she is not a really high value pickup at all. Now lastly, we have JuFufu, and JuFufu is actually all around a really high value agent. she's able to provide the team with crit damage, chain attack damage bonus, and ultimate damage bonus, which all around is actually really useful, and a lot of agents can actually take advantage of it. JuFufu's major downside is that she's almost useless when ran alongside anomaly agents, so if you're someone who's highly invested into anomaly, you won't really have much reason to pick her up. JuFufu may not be best in slot on a lot of teams, but she works as a really good filler option on basically any team that requires at least one stunner. All of this is to say that basically JuFufu is a really good agent who works really well with a lot of agents and can fill in the gaps on any teams you have that may require one stunner, and if you're invested a lot into the attack and rupture playstyles, then you'll be able to find a lot of value for JuFufu. But if you're primarily an anomaly player, then JuFufu is almost useless. Now that we've covered each character individually, let's quickly discuss this patch's pull value as a whole. Overall, let's say that 2.3 is looking to be a pretty high value patch to pull on, with it seemingly leaning a little bit more in favor of Rupture in terms of which class is going to benefit the most, with us getting 2 new additions to the Rupture roster, as well as a dedicated Rupture support, so just expect to see a lot of Rupture shit content. For the reruns, I feel that both of the characters are actually really high value, with Vivian being an incredible anomaly option, and JuFufu being an incredible attack and Rupture general stunner. I also feel the inclusion of Manato on Lucia's banner is also really good for free-to-play players, because they can pull Lucia, the best Rupture support, alongside a decent Rupture DPS, which will be very good for their accounts. Overall, I'd say that this is a pretty high value patch with a lot of really good options to pull for, regardless of whether you're an anomaly player, an attack player, or a Rupture player, or maybe a player of all three or some combination of all three, you will find something good to pull for this patch. But don't feel bad about skipping any of these characters either, because I wouldn't go as far as to say that anyone on any of these banners is really a must pull. Maybe except Lucia due to how powerful she is with Rupture agents, but even then, other options still work fine. So regardless of whether you choose to skip or you choose to pull, don't feel bad about your decision. Alright, so with that, we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you learned a lot from it, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. But with all that being said, I've been Kizunatsu, the one and only, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.